Today we are talking about a story that has left Washington humiliated, the world shocked, and Donald Trump absolutely furious. The Taliban, the very group America fought for 20 years, have just signed a $10 billion deal. And it has been hailed in Kabul as a triumph, but in Washington as a national disgrace. For Trump, the news was explosive. For America, it is another bitter reminder of how 2 decades of war ended not with victory, but with humiliation at the hands of the very enemies it once vowed to destroy. This isn't just about money. $10 billion is a staggering figure, yes, but the symbolism goes far deeper. The Taliban, once hunted through the mountains of Afghanistan, are now sitting at negotiating tables, signing contracts, and being treated as legitimate partners in global trade. Meanwhile, America, after losing thousands of lives and spending over $2 trillion in Afghanistan, is left on the sidelines, watching its former adversaries strike deals worth billions. This is not just an economic story, it is a geopolitical earthquake. The deal itself is being described as a lifeline for the Taliban regime. After seizing power in 2021, the Taliban were cut off from international recognition, aid, and access to the global financial system. Afghanistan's economy collapsed. Poverty soared. Millions faced hunger. Yet somehow, the Taliban survived. They tightened control, consolidated power, and waited for the world to come to them. And now, that patience has paid off. With a $10 billion deal in hand, involving trade, resources, and regional infrastructure, the Taliban are signaling to the world that they are not only here to stay, but they are ready to profit. For Trump, the humiliation is personal. He has long defended his role in negotiating the initial withdrawal agreement with the Taliban back in 2020, insisting that his plan would have forced them into submission. He has blasted Joe Biden for the chaotic scenes of Kabul's fall in 2021, but the truth is, this $10 billion deal exposes both administrations. Trump began the withdrawal process, Biden finalized it, and now the Taliban are cashing in on America's retreat. For Trump, seeing the Taliban profit while America bleeds prestige is intolerable. Reports from his inner circle suggest he exploded when briefed on the news, railing against Biden, the Pentagon, and anyone else he could blame. But the anger cannot erase the reality. The Taliban have humiliated America with a $10 billion deal, and the world is watching. What makes this even worse is who the deal is with. Early reports suggest it involves regional powers who were once America's partners. Countries that accepted US military aid, that hosted American troops, that benefited from Washington's promises of security, are now cutting billion-dollar agreements with the very group America fought. The Taliban are leveraging Afghanistan's resources, copper, lithium, rare earths, and offering access to infrastructure projects in exchange for recognition and cash. For global powers hungry for resources and influence, the math is simple. For the US, the optics are devastating. Think about the symbolism. America spent 20 years trying to build Afghanistan into a Western-style democracy. It spent trillions trying to defeat the Taliban militarily. It armed and trained Afghan forces who collapsed in days. And now, not even 5 years after America's withdrawal, the Taliban are signing billion-dollar deals while the US is reduced to issuing statements of concern. This is what humiliation looks like on the world stage. The Taliban, of course, are celebrating. For them, this is not just about money, it is about legitimacy. A $10 billion agreement tells Afghans that their rulers are not isolated, not weak, but powerful enough to command respect from major players in global trade. It boosts their domestic image, it secures their financial future, and it gives them propaganda material for years to come. Proof that America may have bombs, but the Taliban have endurance. Inside Washington, the fallout is brutal. Analysts are pointing out the obvious. The US left Afghanistan with nothing to show for its sacrifice. 2 decades, thousands of lives, trillions of dollars, all ending in chaos at Kabul airport and a Taliban flag flying over the presidential palace. And now, The Taliban are negotiating deals worth $10 billion, while America gets nothing. For Trump, this story is an open wound. He cannot bear to see the Taliban treated as legitimate partners, and he cannot stand the idea that his withdrawal framework has been turned into their greatest weapon. That is why, according to insiders, he erupted when told of the deal. He sees it not just as a policy failure, but as a personal insult. The humiliation stretches beyond Trump and Biden. For America's allies, the deal is a reminder of US weakness. NATO fought alongside the US in Afghanistan, only to see the mission collapse. Billions in aid vanished. Countless promises to Afghans were broken, and now the Taliban are the ones benefiting. For adversaries like Russia and China, the lesson is clear. America can be defeated, not just militarily, but economically and diplomatically. If the Taliban can humiliate Washington with a $10 billion deal, what message does that send to others challenging US power? The economic ripple effects are just beginning. Afghanistan is sitting on untapped mineral wealth worth an estimated $1 trillion, including vast reserves of lithium, the critical ingredient for batteries that power everything from smartphones to electric cars. By securing a $10 billion deal, the Taliban are opening the door to exploitation of those resources. That means countries like China, already dominant in rare earth minerals, could tighten their grip on the green energy economy with Afghanistan's help. Meanwhile, the US, once the dominant global power, has no seat at the table. It is left watching as its former enemy reaps the benefits. For ordinary Americans, the humiliation stings too. Families who lost loved ones in Afghanistan are left asking, what was it all for? Veterans who served multiple tours are wondering why they fought, why they bled, only for the Taliban to stand triumphant, signing billion-dollar contracts. Taxpayers who funded 2 decades of war are realizing that their money built nothing lasting. Instead, it left behind rubble, broken promises, and a Taliban regime now richer than ever. For Trump, the political consequences are complex. On one hand, he will blame Biden for the chaotic withdrawal. He will argue that his own plan would have kept the Taliban in check. On the other hand, he cannot escape the fact that he himself negotiated directly with the Taliban, granting them legitimacy before they ever seized Kabul. The images of Taliban leaders shaking hands with US envoys in Doha still linger. And now, those same leaders are signing contracts worth billions, while Trump explodes in anger. History will not forget that. The Taliban, of course, are seizing the propaganda victory. State media in Afghanistan is already boasting about the deal, presenting it as proof that the Taliban are not isolated but powerful. They are framing it as revenge against America, a financial victory that matches their military one. And in many ways, they are right. America is humiliated, the Taliban are enriched, and the balance of power has shifted. The global reaction is divided. Some countries see opportunity in Afghanistan's resources and are willing to overlook the Taliban's human rights abuses to get a piece of the pie. Others are horrified, warning that legitimizing the Taliban will only embolden extremists worldwide. But regardless of where nations stand, one fact remains. The Taliban have a $10 billion deal, and the US does not. That fact alone marks a profound shift in the narrative of the war. The conclusion is inescapable. The Taliban, once dismissed as mountain fighters with no future, have humiliated the most powerful nation on earth. A $10 billion deal is more than just economics. It is a symbol of victory. For America, it is a reminder that wars can be lost not just on the battlefield, but in the aftermath. For Trump, it is a bitter pill, one that has left him exploding in anger, blaming everyone but himself. And for the world, it is proof that even empires can stumble, that even superpowers can be humiliated, and that in the game of endurance, sometimes the unexpected side wins. The flames of Kabul may have faded, but the humiliation burns on. a $10 billion deal signed by the Taliban, and America left with nothing but memories of a war it could not win.